Dinner's almost done and the fries are already on the tray. A squeeze of mayo goes into the burger sauce. Then the bottle gets flipped and the label hits your eye. Mayonnaise. Mayo dressing. That tiny wording matters because in Canada, some foods have a set identity standard, and the Mayo family has clear composition rules like minimum vegetable oil and required base ingredients. So a jar that looks like classic mayo can still be built very differently depending on what it is called and what shows up first in the ingredient list. Most prepackaged foods must list ingredients from most to least by weight, so the first few words quietly tell you what you are mostly paying for. In this video, you will get 8 mayo and mayo dressing picks to avoid in Canada and 3 better picks that make sense. Subscribe for more grocery truth in plain English and comment the mayo brand you buy most often. Stick till the end because I'll show you the fastest way to spot a good mayo in 10 seconds, so you never get fooled again. Brand 8, President's Choice. That quick label scan is step 1, but recalls are the real proof that a mayo-style spread can turn into a safety problem fast. With creamy sandwich spreads and dips, the texture can look normal right up until something changes inside the bottle, and you only notice it when the cap feels tight or the squeeze feels wrong. President's Choice sandwich spreads and dips have a Canada recall notice that flags a very specific issue, potential bursting bottles, and the issue category is listed as food microbial contamination. That wording matters because it is not a taste debate. It is a stability and safety flag, and these products are the exact kind that go straight from fridge to sandwich, with no cooking step in between. The everyday risk in the aisle is how easy it is to think it's just a spread and move on. But the recall system is designed for one job, helping you match what you have in your hand to what is affected. This is why the useful habit is not gossip or screenshots. The useful habit is checking the recall details and looking for the identifiers the notice mentions, like the product name, size, lot code, and best before. Here's the bigger lesson for Canadian shoppers. The risk is almost never the whole brand forever. It is usually specific affected products, tied to specific codes, during a specific window. That is why recall notices matter more than rumors, because they tell you exactly what to compare and how to decide fast. So, the takeaway is simple. For spreads and dips that live in the Mayo family, do not rely on the front label vibe. Use it as a reminder to check the basics. If a recall notice exists, treat the match like a stop sign, not a maybe, and move on to a clearer option. Brand 7, Hellmann's. That quick recall check habit matters because sometimes the warning is not a label trick at all. It is the bottle telling you something is wrong. With mayo-style sauces, especially burger sauces, people often assume the bottle is automatically fine because it is sealed, refrigerated, and familiar. But real life is messier than that, and the recall system exists for the moments when a product does not behave like it should. Hellmann's classic burger sauce had a Canada recall notice tied to a very simple problem, bloating and spoilage, and the official instruction is to not use, sell, serve, or distribute the affected product. That instruction is direct for a reason. Once a product is recalled, the safest move is treating it as a stop sign, not a debate. Bloating is the kind of thing you notice at home. A bottle that looks puffed, a cap that feels too tight, a squeeze that feels odd, like pressure is building when it should not. Spoilage is what people notice as a sauce that smells off, tastes off, or looks separated sooner than expected. And what makes this tricky is that people often try to talk themselves into it because it looks close to normal. This is not about being picky. It is about avoiding the guesswork. Condiments are still food. Food can break down. And when the issue is flagged, the smartest move is not to test it and see. The smartest move is to follow the recall instruction for the affected product, because recalls are written to remove uncertainty. So here's the practical lesson for the mayo aisle. It is not only about whether a product is mayo or dressing, it is also about how it holds up. If a sauce is flagged for bloating and spoilage, it is a reminder to use the tools that protect you in Canada. Check the recall match details. Check the code. If it matches, it is a hard no. Brand 6, Ransland. A bloated bottle is an easy skip. The next risk is harder because it can look totally normal in the fridge. This is where shoppers get trapped. A product can look fine, smell fine at first, and still be part of a recall, which is exactly why code checking beats guessing. The Ransland mayo was recalled in Canada due to possible listeria contamination, And the notice shows it was sold at retail in specific provinces and tied to specific lot and best before codes. That last part is the point. A recall is not saying every jar everywhere is the same. It is saying certain products and codes are the ones to avoid. This matters for the mayo conversation because salad kits and ready-to-eat sides are exactly where mayo-style dressings get used fast, often the same day, with no cooking step to change the outcome. That is why the real trap is not flavor. The trap is assuming chilled equals low risk, when the recall system is literally telling you the safer habit is a code check, not a sniff check. Listeria is described as a foodborne bacterium, and people who get sick can feel it in everyday ways, like fever, nausea, cramps, diarrhea, or vomiting, depending on the person and the amount, and not everyone exposed becomes ill. That is the exact reason recalls exist. They remove the need to guess based on how you feel that day or what the jar looks like. The practical takeaway is simple. When a product is recalled for possible listeria, treat that exact product and code as a hard no. If it was in your fridge, clear it out and clean the shelf area where it sat so the next item does not pick up drips. No drama, just clean, fast decisions. Brand 5, Taylor Farms. Wiping the fridge shelf is smart after a recalled kit, and the next brand shows why a clean-looking bag still deserves a quick code check. This is the part that surprises people. A chopped salad kit can look fresh, smell fresh, and still be included in a recall. That is why the label identifiers matter more than your senses in this aisle moment. Taylor Farms had a food recall warning in Canada due to possible salmonella contamination, and the recall notice is specific about provinces and the exact best before codes. So it is not a vague warning. It is a match this bag and decide fast kind of alert. That specificity is what makes it useful. It tells you exactly what to compare. This fits the mayo conversation because salad nights are when creamy dressings and sandwich spreads come out. A chopped kit is often eaten the same day, with no cooking step to change what is in it. It is a straight path from bag to bowl to plate, which is why recalls in this category matter for normal households. The recall page also says the recall was triggered by Canadian Food Inspection Agency test results, and it states there were no reported illnesses at the time of the notice, which is a useful reminder that recalls are often preventive, not only a reaction after people report problems. Another key point you already hinted at is the one shoppers forget. Salmonella-contaminated food may not look or smell spoiled. That is exactly why the code matters more than your nose. If illness happens, it can feel like everyday symptoms, such as nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, stomach cramps, chills, or fever, and symptoms can start within hours to a few days, depending on the person and exposure. The simple shopping lesson is to stop treating bagged kits as automatically safe just because they are chilled and sealed. Brand 4, Del Mar Foods. Zero guessing is the goal, and this brand is a reminder that the biggest risk is sometimes a label that leaves something out. That sounds small until you remember how these products are used in real life. Ranch and creamy dressings get treated like mayo, dip, drizzle, sandwich spread, straight from fridge to plate with no cooking step. The buttermilk ranch dressing from this brand had a Canada recall notice because mustard and anchovy were not declared on the label. The issue category is listed as food allergen fish and food allergen mustard, with distribution noted for Ontario and a specific best before date. That detail matters because it tells you this is a specific product match, not a broad panic. The plain English problem is not that mustard or anchovy are always bad ingredients. The problem is surprise ingredients. That is where trust breaks. People make decisions based on labels. When the words are missing, the shopper cannot make the right choice even if they are trying. Health Canada lists mustard as a priority food allergen and provides practical label advice like avoiding products that contain mustard or mustard seed when that is a concern. Health Canada also treats fish as a priority allergen and notes that fish should be declared using common names like anchovy so shoppers can recognize it. When those words are missing, the everyday impact can be simple and real for someone sensitive. A normal snack becomes a bad afternoon. And that is exactly what the recall system is trying to prevent without drama. Takeaway for the mayo and dressing aisle. A creamy label look is not a guarantee. The safest habit is scanning for clear allergen wording and matching the exact product to the recall details. If it matches, do not use it and move on to a clearer option. Brand 3, Moishes. That same recall habit applies even when the product is not called mayo at all. Creamy sides in the deli case can use the same ingredients and the same shortcuts, and that is why they belong in a mayo video. If it looks like a creamy spread, it can behave like one, and the risks can show up in similar ways. This brand had a Canada recall notice because egg was present, but not declared on the label. That one sentence is the whole issue. The lesson for the mayo aisle is how easy it is to miss egg when it is used as a binder or texture booster in creamy foods like dressings, spreads, and coleslaw. In Canada, eggs are considered a priority food allergen, and labels are expected to identify priority allergens by their common names so shoppers can recognize them. That expectation is there because shoppers do not have time to decode ingredients like a scientist. They need clear words that match how people shop. When egg is not declared, the everyday impact is not the taste. It is the surprise for someone avoiding egg. A normal side dish can trigger an allergic reaction, and those reactions can be serious for some people. That is why undeclared egg recalls keep showing up as a category and why this belongs in your informed buyer style. So here's the practical rule this brand teaches. Do not trust the front label. Trust the ingredients and the recall codes. If a deli side looks harmless and familiar, it can still be part of a recall. If you buy these items often, keep the packaging until it is finished, because the tiny identifiers are what help you match a recall notice later. Brand 2, Fresh Prep. This was recalled in Canada because sesame was not declared, and the notice says the product was sold online rather than sitting in a regular grocery aisle. That detail matters because online food shopping changes how people handle packaging. A lot of meal kit items get unpacked fast, the outer sleeve gets tossed, and the only thing left is a container in the fridge with no visible identifiers. The everyday problem here is not just the missing word on the label. It is how easy it is to miss the recall match when the only identifiers are batch-style codes and best before dates. Those are the exact things people throw away first. Meal kit-style foods often get unpacked quickly and tossed into containers. Then the tiny code on the original pack disappears. Now it is harder to check if what you have is the recalled one. That is how a recall can turn into a surprise moment at dinner, even for someone who usually reads labels. Health Canada lists sesame as a priority food allergen in Canada, which is why it shows up repeatedly in recall alerts when it is missing from the label. For most shoppers, the body impact to understand is simple. An allergen surprise can hit fast and ruin a normal meal for someone sensitive to it. So the practical habit is this. If you buy online meal kit items, keep the packaging until the product is finished, or at least keep a photo of the label with the code. That way, if a recall notice pops up, you can match what you have without guessing. And the bigger lesson for the mayo aisle is that the mayo family is not only jars. It is creamy sauces, dips, dressings, and meal kit components. If something is creamy and ready to eat, treat it like a label-sensitive category. Check allergens, keep identifiers, and when a recall notice exists, match the code and decide fast. Brand 1, Kraft. Keeping those online codes handy matters because the next product can fool you even without a recall, and it happens right on the front label. Kraft Miracle Whip is marketed in Canada as a dressing, not mayo, and that one word changes the expectation in your cart. The mayo problem is not that one is good and one is bad. The problem is that mayonnaise in Canada has a compositional standard, meaning it is supposed to be built a certain way with a core set of ingredients and a minimum level of vegetable oil. So, when a jar is clearly positioned as a dressing, it is signaling it is not trying to be classic mayonnaise under that standard. That is how people end up disappointed, because the meal in your head is creamy mayo, and the jar in your hand is a different category that can behave differently in potato salad and sandwich spreads. This is where label reading becomes your unfair advantage. In Canada, ingredient lists are required to show ingredients in descending order by weight. So the first few ingredients tell you what you are mostly paying for and what will drive the texture and mouthfeel. If the goal is true mayo richness, the simplest move is to buy products that use the mayo common name and then compare ingredient lists across options in the aisle. Canada also explains that when a food is formulated to meet a prescribed standard, the prescribed common name must be used. So the front label is not just marketing, it is a clue about which rulebook the product is playing by. All the brands mentioned till now had the same pattern in different costumes. A label that changes the category, dressing versus mayonnaise, where a code that matters more than the front of the bottle, or a recall pattern that proves a creamy product, can fail without looking scary on day one. So instead of guessing in the aisle, here are 3 safer picks that keep the label clearer and the product definition tighter in Canada. Safer. Pick 1. Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise is clearly sold as mayonnaise, and the ingredient list starts with canola oil, then egg and vinegar, which usually signals a classic mayo build rather than a watered-down dressing-style formula. In Canada, mayonnaise has a compositional standard that describes the core combo and a minimum vegetable oil level, and CFIA also explains that foods that do not meet a standard cannot use the prescribed standardized name. So, a product sold as mayonnaise is the one most likely to be playing by that rulebook. Safer pick 2. Heinz Real Mayonnaise. Heinz Real Mayonnaise is positioned as real mayonnaise in Canada, and the ingredient list on major Canadian retailers shows vegetable oil first, followed by water, egg, and vinegar, which is the typical mayo base, rather than a sweet sandwich spread profile. If egg is a concern, the good news is Canada requires common allergens to be clearly declared in the ingredient list or a contained statement when present. So check for the egg call-out every time, even within the same brand family. Safer. Pick 3. Kraft Mayonnaise Real. Kraft Mayonnaise Real is sold in Canada as mayonnaise in Canadian retailer ingredient panels show vegetable oil first, then water, egg, vinegar, and yolk, which reads like a standard mayo structure instead of a dressing shortcut. The simplest reason to pick this is due to clarity. CFIA explains that standardized foods use common names set by regulation, and that name is meant to tell you what the product is. When the front says mayonnaise, it is easier to compare apples to apples across brands and avoid paying mayo prices for dressing behavior. While shopping remembers these 10-second rules, in the aisle, look for the word mayonnaise, not dressing, if the goal is classic mayo, because Canada has a standard for mayonnaise, including a minimum vegetable oil level. Check the first 2 ingredients, since ingredients are listed from most to least by weight, and if water shows up before oil, the texture often eats into that rich mayo feel. Scan the ingredient list or the contains line for priority allergens like egg, mustard, fish, or sesame when that matters for your household. If buying organic, look for the Canada Organic logo and the certification body name on the label. If Canadian origin matters, choose labels that clearly say Product of Canada or a qualified Made in Canada claim rather than vague maple leaf vibes. That is the whole video. If this helped, subscribe for more educational supermarket product breakdowns and drop a comment with what you want investigated next. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay protected, and spend smarter.